Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Parth, and the LeEco La2 is being called all kinds of names, from the budget king to the beast to the big things come in small packages and blah blah blah. So in today's video, what I'm gonna do is just avoid all of that stuff and just voice my opinions that I've formed over a week of incredible amount of usage of this device. So right for the first time when you'll see it or eventually pick this up, you'll realize that this is not a flashy design. It's kind of a really interesting design actually. It's not extraordinary, it's not something out of the box, and that's kind of okay. It's definitely a premium design. It's almost made out of aluminum. Almost, but it is definitely the best looking or the best designed phone in this price range. Might just be even better than a lot of phones that cost more than this. So those chamfered edges and the metallic build and the mirrored fingerprint sensor really do add to the aesthetics. But here's the interesting thing. At the top you have plastic and then metal and then again plastic at the bottom. Now those two plastic plates are there for better cellular network and better transmission of signals. But then I don't really understand why do we still have antenna lines. I just don't understand that. Other than that, it's also really light for the size. It's got a 5.5 inch display, so a really well distributed weight all over the phone, which is amazing. And it's pretty thin, but still the camera does not really protrude significantly. In fact, it's barely out, so that's again pretty sweet. But really, if you compare it with its predecessor, the 1S, you won't really find any drastic changes unless and until you look around its edges. So on the bottom, you've got a microphone grill on the left, a USB Type-C port, which is awesome, and then on the right you have a pretty awful sounding speaker grill. Also on the top you've just got an IR blaster, and of course you won't have any headphone jack on the side of the phone. So this is probably the only smartphone that ships as of now in the market that does not have a headphone jack, and trust me, that is saying a lot. So there's this technology that the company calls CDLA, or continuous digital lossless audio, that a lot of people don't really make sense about. But really the basic theory is that with a 3.5mm headphone jack you kind of have an output which has a 50% loss of the audio quality. For an example, if the input is about 90 decibels, you just hear 49 or 50 decibels of the same. So there's a pretty significant loss in the audio quality, at least that's what the company says. In audio via the USB Type-C port, you've got pretty much no loss. So if the input is about 90 decibels, you hear about 89 decibels. So that's quite a lot of gain. And of course, you do hear the difference. There's an extra punch in the USB Type-C audio. You might not be able to tell that difference unless and until you compare it with the audio coming from that 3.5mm headphone jack, but that's totally understandable. They also ship this Type-C to 3.5mm port connector that you can easily use and plug in your original earphones to, so you're basically good to go. At the end of the day, I don't really think this is a bad move from the company. Of course, you can't charge the device while you're using it, but the company could have actually fixed this issue by implementing wireless charging into the device. That didn't happen, so that's kind of a bummer. I don't really know how much will this affect the end consumer, but for me, it's not really a problem. Also, a lot of people seem to have this quality control issue, so if you basically knock on the glass of the phone, you kind of get this hollow sound, but actually it's not really hollow. It's got a gasket beneath it, and basically its function is to prevent the glass from breaking to an extent when you drop the phone accidentally. I kind of dropped the device accidentally a couple of times, but that did not really damage the phone at all. But I don't really think those drops were so intensive to test the actual strength of the same. But I don't really doubt what the company claims. As far as the display is concerned, it's a 5.5 inch display. It's not a pentile display like the one on the OnePlus 3, and that's kind of good because you cannot differentiate between the pixels like you could on the OnePlus 3. So it feels kind of more crisp and sharp, and it's a 1080p display, so of course you have so many pixels every single inch. But as far as the quality and the day-to-day usage is concerned, it's got really good viewing angles because it's an IPS panel. Also, it really impressed me in the brightness because it gets really bright outdoors in pretty bright sunlight, so that is really impressive. And at the end of the day, the display itself is easily one of the best assets of this device. But there's actually one more thing that I consider to be an amazing asset of this device, and that is the performance. So you've got everything. You've got Snapdragon 652, which is one of the best chips made by Qualcomm, and then you've got 3GB of RAM, so this thing literally multitasks like a breeze. And I'm playing really hard when I'm testing a device. This did not disappoint. Absolutely no hiccups in my day-to-day usage of email and web browsing and all of that stuff. But really what took me by a surprise was the gaming performance. I seriously played a lot of high-end games this time around, The frames did drop here and there sometimes, and it also started to lag, but that was only after plenty of hours of playing games, so that was okay. But the best part was that it did not overheat, in fact at all. It just got minutely warm, which is really impressive. I don't really think you'll have any better option than this in this price range. Oh, and but the RAM, it's 3 gigabytes of RAM, although you barely get half of it, and that's due to poor RAM management of EUI, which is a custom skin on top of Marshmallow. To be honest, there's actually not a lot to talk about EUI. It's just another average custom UI without an app drawer. The only thing that kind of differentiates it from the rest is that it's got that live app that LeEco went ahead and wrote that can actually stream live television shows in a variety of languages and also certain movies. So that kind of sounds interesting, but I never even used it once. In fact, I ended up installing Google Now Launcher on the device, which I'm pretty sure most of you will also end up doing. But luckily, it does have that Now on Tap feature of Marshmallow, which somehow MIUI just does not support. I don't know why. But anyways, talking about the camera, it's a 16 megapixel shooter on the back that has technically got everything going for it. So it's got a great app, which is actually really quick in taking pictures. It's got the ability to record 4K videos that don't really look that good. And the same goes with the pictures you click with it. I mean, pretty poor dynamic range. The low light performance screams don't look at me. But if you really get the best lighting conditions, this can actually really shine out. It's got really great colors in great lighting conditions and really good saturation levels. I was actually really fascinated by that a lot. But there's not a lot to talk about it. I mean, the pictures speak for themselves. But at the end of the day, for 12K, can't really complain that much. Oh, and I don't really talk about this a lot, but the front camera is actually pretty good. So at the end of the day, to power all of this up, there's a 3000 milliampere battery at work, which is a pretty decent size, and so is the battery life. It's just decent. I use the device incredibly heavily, so my battery life kind of lasted around 24 hours, but when I started to game, the battery life sort of dropped in a heartbeat, so that was kind of a bummer. But I'm pretty sure you won't game the way I did, so you would easily last through a full day and might even have some juice for the next one, so I think that's pretty good. Oh, and also the standby time is pretty awesome. So I slept at 90 and woke up at 87. That's pretty sweet for an Android phone, I guess. So there you have it, guys. This is the LeEco Le2. Turns out it's a really good phone. Easily the best budget phone that you can get. In fact, it's so good that the company actually sold the whole stock in probably less than 5 seconds. So I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have been able to get one for yourself. So I'm giving this away. In fact, internationally. So there's that gleam.io link in the description. I've collaborated with some of my best buddies and we'll be announcing the winners after 10 days on our Twitter handle, so make sure to follow us there. Anywho, that's been it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to stick around and I'll catch you in my next one. Take care and good luck.